Hello everyone, welcome back to another geography lesson. Today we're going to continue with our revision exercises, and what we're going to discuss today is our economic activities regarding geography first. Now our first activity is regarding figure 3.7, and it's a case study on Cape Peninsula. Now if we quickly read the extract over there, the Cape Peninsula stretches from the Cape of Good Hope to Cape Point, where Table Mountain is, and the city of Cape Town, the actual CBD. It compromises for the most part strikingly beautiful mountains, as well as the beautiful Table Mountain. Now, first of all, many tourist attractions over there. Many people go and visit Cape Town, not only because of the primary activities such as the wine farms, but also because of the beauty such as Table Mountain, which actually overlook the city. The city is the CBD, and the shorelines is attractive residential areas where people can go and visit and stay during their holiday periods. Now, if you quickly look at this map of the Cape Peninsula, you've got quite a few economic activities taking place over here. Now, the first one I want to concentrate on is the rural-urban fringe. What's the rural-urban fringe? It's basically when we move from the urban areas to the rural areas. And if you look at this Constantia, is a farmstead, and there's a primary activity taking place, mainly farming and making of grapes. As you can see, there's Table Mountain, massive tourist attraction for the Western Cape. Over here we got the CBD, the Central Business District. And next to the CBD is the harbour, light industries that we use as a break of bulk point for imports and exports. The waterfront is well renowned for its shopping and its restaurants. Quite famously, people go and visit over there. There's an aquarium as well. And then we have the beachfront properties here at Sea Point. As you can see, the high-rising buildings is probably hotels. Clifton over here is probably one of the most expensive neighborhoods, suburban areas in South Africa. And as you go from the coastline, there's Landatno, also a very expensive neighborhood that we find on the west coast of South Africa. But let's go and look at the questions regarding this case study. Refer to the wine farms located in the area of Constantia. Wine farm estates are examples of isolated farmsteads. Now, define the term isolated farmstead. Now let's quickly look back at it. As you can see, there's the wine farm of Constantia. You can see the main house over there. Now, isolated means it's quite far from one another and it's on its own piece of land. So where the people live is on their own piece of land or farmland and not close to any other settlements as well. So most of these farms, when we look at isolated farmsteads, it's usually a dispersed settlement. Now if you look at question 1.2, state two economic advantages of this type of settlement. Now first of all the profit that's been made on that farm is the owner's. All profit is owned by the farmers. Second of all, there's less time wasted for traveling. For traveling to work and back. So for instance, let's say for instance you've got a normal job, your job is in the CBD. Every single day you need to travel to the CBD and back to your house. For instance, of an isolated farmstead, you wake up and your workplace is right where you basically wake up. So you don't need to travel a great distance to get to work and back. Now, I describe two social disadvantages of a settlement pattern. Like I've mentioned, it's isolated and it's quite dispersed. If you look at it, there's no social interaction. And if something needs to go wrong, it's quite difficult to find help. Another reason that we can mention over here, we can't share any ideas. So to get social interaction, you need to travel quite a bit, because the only people that's working on an isolated farmstead is you yourself, your family, and the workers on it. The next question, wine farms in South Africa form part of all three economic activities: primary, secondary, and tertiary activities. Explain the statement in a short paragraph. Now, first of all, if we quickly look at the settlement, the primary activity that's taking place over there is the farming of grapes. Now, on an isolated farmstead like Constantia, a secondary activity is taking place as well. So what basically happens, they take the grapes and they process it. And when they process the grapes, they're making wine from it. Now, the tertiary activity is taking these wines and sell it. For instance, it makes it quite easy. There's the harbour, makes it easier for export, and they're getting shipped off to Europe. But many of the wine farms currently in the Western Cape has come up with a better idea. Now, what they do is, to increase their profits, they've taken their wine, and on the wine farm itself, they've opened restaurants and they open wine tasting venues. So people can come and enjoy, tourists can come and enjoy the beauty of the wine farms and have a glass of wine and even try the restaurants on the property. Now, many of these wine farms also offer their farms as wedding venues where people can celebrate weddings. So if we look at the primary activity taking place, is the farming of the grapes. The secondary activity taking place is the processing of the grapes, such as wine. The tertiary, delivering a service, like for instance opening a restaurant, wine tasting, wedding venues, and selling of the wine. So that basically maximizes the profits for an isolated farmstead in the Western Cape region. If you look at question number 2, study the city of Cape Town in the center of figure 3.7 to answer the following questions. Now let's quickly look at the city of Cape Town. And when I refer to the city of Cape Town, I refer to the CBD, this area over here, the Central Business District. Now, the first question is define the term settlement. Now, define the term site. It's the exact piece of land where the settlement is found. So it's the exact piece of land where the settlement is found. Now the next question is probably going to ask us, what 2 factors were responsible for the choosing to develop of Cape Town? Now first of all, the first settlers arrived in 1652 in South Africa. And the reasons why they chose that site is probably because of the harbours, natural ports. The second reason, because if you look at the gradient, is not that steep, so it's a gentle gradient, it's going to be cheaper and it's going to be easier to create infrastructure over there. And obviously, last but least, there was properly enough water and resources. Now the next question, why is Cape Town classified as a break of bulk point? Now the dead giveaway over there, if we go back to our diagram, as you can see the ship situated over there, this is the port, the harbour. Now break of bulk point, we've learned in our settlement section, is when goods comes in one form of transport and leaves in another form of transport. In this case, it comes by shipment. As you can see, these are railway lines being offloaded from the ships onto the railway lines and being dispersed to the rest of the country or via trucks. So it's a place that changes transport modes. Let's quickly have a look at our question again. Because it changes, the correct answer for that, it has a harbour where the mode of transport changes. Now, just a tip, any place, development, any urban place that's well developed, when we look at our IDZs, is a break of bulk point. For instance, Durban, Port Elizabeth, Uitenhage is another example. What does the letter CBD stand for? That's quite easy, we've done it for a while. Central Business District. Question number B, identify the street pattern of the CBD of Cape Town. Now we've looked at the street patterns when we discussed settlement of urban areas. Now if you look at the diagram, it's a dead giveaway. Now if you look at the street patterns over there, many one-way streets, and it looks like a gridiron. Am I right? Definitely not irregular planned, but because it's in a CBD, if you look at the characteristics, most of your older settlements have a gridiron pattern. And let's just quickly look at the questions that follows. The street pattern of the CBD of Cape Town be established as a gridiron pattern. Now provide one advantage and disadvantage of the street pattern. The advantage is it's easy to find your way around. So you won't get easily lost. And a disadvantage that we can mention, it's quite a boring street pattern. Now, if you can remember, the reason why people chose the gridiron pattern, especially in CBD areas, because the CBD land value is the highest among urban areas, and instead of moving outwards, they're moving up with their buildings, such as the skyscrapers. With reference to figure 3.7, identify one characteristics of the CBD's profile. And like I've just mentioned now, it's the tall, high, rising buildings. The reason why the tall, high-rising buildings is because of the property value. very expensive and is difficult to expand. Many places can't afford to be in the CBD, so what happens over time? Decentralization takes place. If we quickly look at number E, explain why the CBD has the characteristic you identify in question D. The question above is because the land prices is most expensive in the CBD. 2.5. What evidence is there that the CBD of Cape Town is the most accessible land use zone? Now, if we go back to the diagram quickly over here, accessible means easy to get to. If you quickly have a look at it, all the transport routes leads to the CBD. There's the harbour, not only in the transport routes, but also your railway routes. All of them leads to the CBD. So the correct answer for that question will be if we quickly look at the question again, question said, what evidence is there that the CBD of Cape Town is the most accessible land use? All the transport routes converge. Converge meaning getting together at the CBD. Stay tuned, and we're going to continue with the revision exercises directly after the break.